Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live chat. And as always, I'm really pleased to be here and I'm really fortunate to be able to come here each week and talk to everyone who enjoys the chat. So as people join the chat, I'm just going to go and find the actual chat room so that I can talk to you all. And I hope you've all had an amazingly fabulous week. I know I have. Apart from being a little bit poorly, for a few days I was a little bit ill, but that's another story. But I hope you all had a fabulous time. So, as I said, I'm just finding the chat, and as always, the format is exactly the same. You find the chat box, and then you post your questions, royal related, to me in the chat box below. And I will do my best, as always, to answer your questions. Okay. I think I can see Van Girl. Hello, Van. And we have 5 viewers already. Okay. Oh, by the way, there's also, I've enabled something that popped up on my YouTube screen called Super Chat. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I'm not quite sure if I have to open 2 windows to look, but I do have Super Chat, and if you know how to use it, then please feel free to use it. I think it means that your questions come to the top of the chat, but seeing as we're only still quite a small community, although growing, we may not need to use that. Okay, so Van Girl, hello, I hope you're well. I'm well apart from being ill for a few days, but that's another story. You like my pin, thank you very much. It's silver and pearls, very much in the style of Queen Elizabeth II, seeing as it was her Sapphire Jubilee week. So I thought I would honour her and wear something very reminiscent of Queen Elizabeth. Max says, hello, Your Royal Highness, the Duke of Shropshire. Thank you very much. I'm glad to see you're addressing me by my correct and proper style and title. Looking sharp, thank you very much. Dan Mendez says hi, and Steve Tack says good evening, Elliot. Good evening, Steve. And Beck Terry says good morning all. Good morning to you. It's evening here in the UK, but I suppose for some of you it is morning. Griselda Jasmine says, I like your jacket, thank you very much. And I think the word, well, I should be wearing sapphire, Steve, but I don't have any. But I have something quite good coming up. Not this week, maybe next week if it gets here, because I have found somewhere where I can buy replica jewels of Queen Elizabeth II. So there are a few brooches on there, which I could wear as pins, and I will be getting some replica jewellery of hers. So look out for that in the coming weeks. Now, I usually wait to show you something a little bit further into the chat, and technically this isn't necessarily royal related, but it's somebody who is very interested in the royal family and another one of my interests. And of course this lady, I hope you can all see her, she's very, very posh. She's an extremely posh lady from the UK, and she's actually a very posh fictional TV character called Hyacinth Bucket, pronounced Bouquet, and she is one of my British posh idols. And this book is the very definition of British poshness, because it's an actual book of keeping up appearances by the BBC that was out at the time of the series. So this is vintage poshness at its best. And this is Hyacinth Bouquet's book of etiquette. And it's absolutely fabulous. And it's, as you can see, it's titled For the Socially Less Fortunate. So if you want to be posh, and you want to be British posh, the very definition of posh, then you should buy this book. I'm not sure if it's still available on Amazon. I did find this on Amazon, but I'm not sure the expense of it now. But please, if you're interested in Hyacinth Bouquet like me, it's an amazing book. And of course, there's like diary excerpts and letters that she's written and pictures from the series, and it gives you lots and lots of tips on how to be a socialite in Britain, a posh socialite. So I just thought I'd share that with you. There's something to share at the beginning. Okay. Beck says it's 6 a.m. here after a very big night. Wow, what happened on your night? Banal Girl says 2 p.m. here in British Columbia. Steve says he has the book. And Dan says newly subscribed a few days ago. Sorry for my not so good English. Don't worry, we're all friends here, Dan. You don't have to speak good English. Just type whatever you can, and of course I will try and answer all of your questions. And I'm really glad that you found the channel and subscribed to it and that you like it. So thank you very much for being another one of my viewers. Beck says, welcome, Dan. I love to see the community spirit between you guys. Really makes me feel good. Chelsea says, hi, I'm 6 minutes late. Don't worry, Chelsea, we haven't really answered a question yet. I've just showed a book. So if you're late coming in, I just showed this book, which is from one of my collection of my Hyacinth Bouquet books. And of course, she's a very famous fictional lady from the UK. Max says, I have a terrible cold too. Well, I didn't quite have a cold. I had a bit of vertigo mixed with a migraine. It wasn't very good, let's put it that way. But I'm okay now. I'm feeling a lot better. Nicole says, hello, Elliot. Great blazer. I love the brooch. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, it's in honour of Queen Elizabeth II and her Sapphire Jubilee. I didn't have any sapphires, but I did have pearls and silver. And it's very much in a style that I think she would like. And that possibly has, I think. Marry Me says, or Mary Me says, what's the title, please? It's Keeping Up Appearances, the official book by the BBC. So I'm not sure, you'll have to be very lucky to find one now. And it's Hyacinth Bouquet's Book of Etiquette for the socially less fortunate. Dawn Moore says, hi, Lid, made it this week. Missed last week so much. I'm painting while watching. Wow, what are you painting? Let us all know. Steve said the book is available secondhand on Amazon. How much is it now, Steve? Purely out of interest. I'd love to know how much it is right now. Nicole says, hi, Dawn, what are you painting? I asked that question too. I'm really intrigued. Chelsea says, I see one episode of that show on PBS. It is very typically British, and you have to really get the humour, and it is very tongue-in-cheek British humour. Max says, Elliot, the Queen looked outstanding in her green on the train. She did, and I hope you all enjoyed that video. From Sandringham with her headscarf in my favourite colour. Yes, she looked absolutely amazing, and she looked fully relaxed, fully recovered from that heavy cold that plagued her Christmas holiday. So she's back in London, back in Buckingham Palace, and raring to crack on with another busy royal year. Banal Gill says, does your partner share your interest in the royals? Not so much, no. Not really. But still very supportive of my interest. Abby Griffin says, you look posh today. Thank you, Abby. Abby, I'm not sure if you missed the book I was showing earlier. And it's a very posh lady from the UK. Hyacinth Bouquet. The definition of poshness. So very posh. And this is from my personal collection. And of course, Hyacinth Bouquet is one of my very posh British royal lady idols. Can you see the similarity? So welcome, Abby. Mary Me says, thank you. Nicole says, glad you're feeling better. Max says, Dawn is painting you, Elliot, so stay still. I would love a portrait of me. Can someone do one, please? I would love it. Steve Tax says, various prices from up to £8 to 30. Wow. So I had a really good investment. I think I paid about £10 for mine. So I've made a little bit of money. And of course, they are very rare now. Dawn says, I will try to take a picture and send it to my Twitter. Yes, we did this last week. If you go on my Twitter, it's royal_reviewer on Twitter, and you can tweet me live while we're doing the chat. It's a very good way to be interactive with each other as well. So log on to Twitter, and if you want to send me something, I'll stop every now and again and have a look what's on Twitter. Chelsea says, what's the copyright year of the book? I will let you know. Hang on. I think it was round about 95, something like that. Oh, 1993. This was one of the very early, from one of the earliest series. I mean, it came out in 1990, so I suppose it was mid series. But yeah, 1993. So it is quite old, quite vintage now. Beck says, you've had a haircut. Yes, I have. I had a haircut. What do you think? It's still quite long on the top, but I had the sides done, and I'm going to try and grow it so that I can have it back, but still have some height, but go back over. And yes, get well soon, Mac, says Nicole. Chelsea says, be back soon. I have to help my mum for a minute. Don't worry, Chelsea. If you've missed anything, you can always catch up on the video that I put on YouTube straight after. Matt says, Elliot, did you get the pic I sent during the week on Twitter of the Queen in different colours? I'm not sure I did. Let me have a look. And Steve says he was watching Keeping Up Appearances last night. I mean, I know she's strictly, technically not royal related, but she did have a huge interest in the royals on the TV show, and I share that passion that she has. I could be the hyacinth bouquet of Shropshire. Who knows? Right, okay, I'm on Twitter. So if you want to send me something now, so that I know that you're there. Oh, by the way, Steve, which episode were you watching? Okay, while I'm just, oh, okay, I have one notification. What's this? Dawn has sent me the picture of her painting. Wow. It's a landscape and it's really amazing. You're very talented. I'm not sure if you can all see, but that's the picture that Dawn has painted. Wow, it's amazing. I love it. Do you do portraits? Okay, I'm just looking to see if I got the picture. I'm not sure I did get that picture, no. I can't seem to see anything that fits your description. Could you send it again? I don't think I have it. No, I don't think I have it. Sorry. Not sure what happened there. Matt says, that book was written during the Queen's Annus Horribilis. It was indeed the year where Windsor Castle burnt down and caused a lot of grief for the Queen. Steve says, the one where she buys a second home in the country. Yes, that's an amazing one. I do like that one. And she ends up with a bijou apartment. Or was it the one where she gets chased by cattle? I think it was. Matt says, nice, Dawn, keep it up. I wish I was that good. And Abby says, how long have you had your YouTube channel? I've probably had it in total about 1.5 years. And I started with one video, which was on the Princess of Wales's former apartment. And if you look back at that video, to be honest, I would really like to redo it, because I think my style of presenting and how I would put that video together now has completely changed. So to me, when I look back, it looks really primitive. And it was just me literally talking over the pictures without any plan in place whatsoever. So it's very off the cuff video. And that video got me quite a lot of subscribers. And I didn't really make any other videos for about 6 months after that. So I had about a 6-month gap. Then I made a few videos and had another little, probably 4 or 5 month gap. And then probably coming up to May of last year, I started making videos weekly. And that's when the whole thing really kicked off. So really, I've been doing it properly for less than 1 year, but I've had the channel for about 1.5 years. So I hope that answers your question. Marry Me says, could you please write down the title for me, Mac? I can't find it on Amazon. And Mac says, Elliot, do you have any interest apart from the obvious? What kind of interest? Do you mean, I like travel, obviously history, the royal family, TV. I do watch quite a lot of TV. Swimming. I do like to swim whenever I can. usually if I go away on holiday. And obviously doing lots and lots of things on the internet and making royal videos for you guys. Beck says, I think that video was great. Looking back, Beck, it's not one of my favorites, I have to say, but it is my most successful video on the channel, nonetheless. But like I said, I would redo it differently if I was going to redo it now. Steve says, well, Murphy buys an apartment next to a major stately home. Yes, that's really funny. And it ends up being really small and cramped. And Richard has his head through the ceiling. Matt says, I don't know the name of the book. Sorry, yes, if you want to know. And there are 3 books in the series, I suppose. There's Hyacinth's Diary. There's this one, the Book of Etiquette, Hyacinth's Book of Etiquette, for the socially less fortunate. And there's another one by, I think it was the director, Harold Snowd, and he wrote about his memoirs about the show. Abby says, your channel has grown. It has indeed. We now have, I don't know, 5,500 subscribers and about 3.4 million views in total. So that's absolutely amazing, and I really can't believe it. Matt says, do I collect things? Yes, I collect some china or crockery from the royal family, books, obviously, figures, if I can get them. There was some figures out at the time of the royal wedding, and I think I showed them probably in some of my very early live chat vlogs. So if you want to see those, go back and have a look. I collect bookmarks. They have to be leather bookmarks. So yeah, those are the things that I collect. Chelsea, what are your collections? Let me know. What do you collect? Chelsea says, I'm back. My brother called me to help with my mum. Well, I'm really glad that you're back. Beck says, have you watched The Crown yet? No, you're going to keep, you need to hit me. You really do. Smack me. This is my Crown. It's on this disc. I have it. It's here. I was going to watch it today, but because I was ill in the week, I didn't have a chance to watch it. And then I was catching up on all the things that I missed doing in the week because I was ill. So I didn't have time again. And I've been obviously making videos for the channel to catch up. So I just ran out of time again, but I really do hope to watch it soon. Ask me next week and I will have watched at least one episode, I promise. Abby says 5,584 subscribers at the moment. Wow, I didn't realize it was quite so much. Mary Miss says Book of Etiquette, now I get it. Thanks Elliot, thanks Mac. Steve collects royal mugs and cups, and Abby collects postcards from other places. Wow, I suppose people collect postcards and fridge magnets and pin badges and all kinds of things. Max says, Elliot, for the God's sake, watch the goddamn program. I will. It's on here. It's on this disc. I have it. A friend put it on this disc for me, so I will be watching it. Nicole says, what do you make of the Sun apologizing to Prince Harry? Well, I thought it was long overdue because there's a lot of fake news going around. There's a lot of phony, fake news. And that was one of them. And it was completely made up, which is why Harry issued such strongly worded press release statement at the time that the story went live. And of course, obviously, there's been legal wrangling and the Sun has had to write a retraction and an apology for what they wrote. And it's about time. I just hope that a lot of people actually got to see it. Because I always wonder sometimes with these retractions, how many people actually see them. Because loads of people saw the proper story because it was splashed all on the front pages. But the retraction and the apology, I can imagine, was probably in a tiny corner somewhere. So I would like to know where it actually was placed in the newspaper. But nevertheless, I'm glad that they apologise. And if they print phony fake news, they should apologize. Matt says, take a day off work. Well, I had 2 days off work actually this week, and I was just really drained. Max says, I collect coins. Yes, I do have a coin collection too. How did I get? I started my coin collection when I was about 10, and I haven't really added to it much since, but I do have some Victorian coins, and a few from before that as well. So yes, I do have a coin collection, and I have a stamp collection. I inherited a stamp collection. I forgot about that too, but I didn't create the stamp collection. I inherited it. Chelsea says, watch it and tell us about it. I will, I promise. Dawn collects unicorns. Steve loves unicorns. Steve's daughter loves unicorns too. And Abby says, do you prefer the British royal history or other history like World War I? To be honest, I did the World War histories at school as part of history, and it's my least favourite period. To me, everything seems so grey, and I know that probably sounds silly because all the footage and all the pictures were grey, but it always seems so. It was very important, and of course, you know, we need to respect our world wars and that period of history, but it's not my favourite. It's not the most exciting. War history doesn't always grab me. My favourite period of history is probably back in the Tudor period, or the ancient Egyptians, or the Romans. To me, they always seem more colourful, more vibrant, and a bit more distant. And I think if something's a bit more distant, it seems a little bit more secretive, and like you have to do a lot more investigation to find out things. And of course, a lot of the paintings were colourful, and so yeah. So I like long ago history, and of course, royal history. I think the Tudors is probably my favourite period in history. Beck says, what did they write? We don't get much royal news in Australia. It was just a very short apology. They basically summed up what they'd said. They blamed it on their source for being incorrect and giving them incorrect information. And then they just apologized. So it was very short, very concise, to the point. I think they printed the minimum of what they were required to do. But nevertheless, it was an apology. And if you go on my Twitter, I think I retweeted the post of it. So go and have a look. Okay. Dawn says, wondered why we had not heard from you, got concerned on Thursday, figured something was wrong. Yes, that's when I was ill. I was ill on the sort of Thursday, Friday. Wasn't too good. Matt says, I just bought a coin off the Royal Mint for the Queen Sapphire Jubilee. I think I know the one you mean. I did see it myself. Van Algil says, I collect Royal Dalton figurines. They have some really good royal ones. I think they have some Tudor ones too. Matt says, if anyone hasn't watched The Crown yet, your life isn't complete. I will watch it. I will watch it. I promise. Don't tell me off. I will definitely watch it. Nicole says, I loved your video on Sarah, the Duchess of York. It made me laugh. Yeah, that news story just cropped up, and I just felt like I had to report on it. So if you haven't seen that video, please go and watch it. It's basically Sarah is using an assumed name to conduct business. So since she moved to Verbier in Switzerland, and if you watch that video, I put a really wonderful picture of the actual chalet, and I have some interior pictures too, which I intend to make a separate video about the interior of that chalet. So look out for that one. But basically, she used this assumed name while she was in Verbier to set up businesses, and she conducted talks, business meetings in London before she sold this apartment that she'd not sold. She didn't renew the lease on the apartment she was renting, so she started conducting all the business meetings in really posh hotels. A particular hotel called the Lanesborough in London. But some of these companies got dissolved, and she was going to revive Budgie the helicopter, and there's still talks that she might revive that to make more money. So I think some people asked some questions a few weeks ago about why she doesn't remarry Andrew, and I think that's just it. She wants to make money, and she can't make that kind of money and put together those kinds of business deals if she's married to the family. She'd be under immense scrutiny. She's under scrutiny now, but she'd be even more so if she was married to Andrew again. So I think that's the reason why she wants to keep slightly separate. and I'm just going to have a drink of my tea. I do hope you all have yours. Steve says, I know what you mean about war history. I did that in school and I prefer royal history. That's just my preference. Some people absolutely are fascinated by military and war history. It's not my thing. I don't even particularly like war films. I kind of go, oh, not another war film. But I do like ancient Egyptians, Romans, any long time ago or royal history I like. Abby says, I'm choosing history for my GCSE choices, and my favourite time is the ancient Egyptians. Abby, I will give you a word of advice from my own experience. When I chose GCSE history for my options, I didn't look at the content of the course. I thought it was going to be Egyptians, Romans, Tudors, and it wasn't. On the syllabus, it was war history. It was World War One and World War Two, and I ended up doing 2 years of war history, which I didn't even like. And I still did okay in it because obviously I worked hard at it. And I do like history, but it wasn't my favourite subject. So my advice would be check the course content before you enroll because it's vital, because you might not be doing the ancient Egyptians. It could just be like me, World War One, World War Two, and it was American history. And actually, I didn't mind the 6 months we did on American history. We did about the Hoover Dam and the recessions and all that kind of thing. But the war history I didn't like, and it was almost 2 years. So please check the course content before you do it. In a way, I wished I'd done geography instead. I had to choose between geography or history. I couldn't take both. So I hope that helps, Abby. Matt says, I'm sorry, Elliot, but I'm not a tea person. You're drinking Coca-Cola. Well, enjoy your Coke. A cola. Yuck Yuck says, does, I can't read today. Does the Queen really approve of Markle? We don't know. She doesn't give interviews. She hasn't expressed an opinion in public, so we don't know. But I can assume that because she's still on the scene, that the royal family in general give their wholehearted support to Harry and his choice of girlfriend. They didn't seem to interfere with the other girlfriends, and they're not interfering now with Meghan. Abby says, I have become so interested in the royals since I've watched your YouTube channel. Thank you, Abby. I'm sure your mother will be delighted that you have a new interest in the royal family. Perhaps she's developing an interest in the royal family too. Let me know. Nicole says, the Duchess of York is a shady businesswoman. Is this stuff even legal? She should really be careful. I think it's legal. I think everything's above board. Even the assumed name. I think it's just like a business company name that she uses. But even so, she's trying to fly under the radar, which could bring a little bit more embarrassment to the royal family if the dealings are shady. So she does need to be careful, I agree, but I don't think anything's illegal. And of course, she moved to Verbier, Switzerland. It's a really good tax haven. So everything's been done legally, but I suppose could be a little bit shady. Yuck Yuck says, love your videos. Thank you very much. And Abby says, don't worry, I like any history. Well, that's good then. As long as you won't be disappointed like I was with almost 2 years of World War history. Max says 20th century history is my favourite. And Abby says, think she is. She watches your videos. Does she? Wow. I can't believe I'm so well watched. Please tell her thank you. Jennifer Campbell says, congrats, you have almost 12,000 hits on the Harry and Meghan appearance story. I do. Those kind of videos do attract really big viewing figures. And sometimes on the subject of viewing figures, sometimes I make a video that I think is really, really interesting, and it doesn't really get that many views in comparison to some of the other videos, which I think are probably less interesting, but get all the views. And then there are some channels out there, other channels that just do fashion, and they get loads and loads of views, and I'm thinking, yes, but that's you know, not as interesting as all the facts. So I suppose we all have our different outputs for our channels, and mine is to deliver the facts about upcoming stories and sort of past royal events and just things that I find interesting, things that I myself would want to look at. Max says legally just about. Yes, probably. Marimi says, will you be so kind as to show me one more time the second book you showed before? I haven't showed a second book. I've only showed one so far. I do have another one to show you. But this was the Hyacinth Bouquet book. Called It's the Keeping Up Appearances official BBC book. Hyacinth Buckets or Bouquet, Hyacinth Bouquet's book of etiquette for the socially less fortunate. So if you need a little bit of more decorum in your life, Abby, please tell your mother this book is for her. If you need a little bit more decorum and respectability in your life, then do buy this book, and it will tell you all you need to know about etiquette and doing things the right way. Okay, I hope that helps. Chelsea Thomas says, I love biography history. I do too. I do read quite a lot of biographies, royal biographies. Van Algil says, the Tudor time period is my favourite as well. Did you watch the Tudors? Yes, I did. I loved that series and I wish they carried on. Why did they stop? They should have gone on and on and on and on and ended with Elizabeth. Why didn't they carry on? Yuk Yuk says, is Camilla as vocal to the papers as they imply? I'm not sure what you mean by vocal. She's always very quiet. I think that wherever you're from, whatever you're reading, I think is fake and phony news, because in the UK, she's always very much like the Queen Mother. She doesn't speak. She doesn't give interviews. She rarely speaks. Only when she's giving speeches or making casual comments and casual chit chat on royal engagements. So no, she isn't particularly vocal. I think she follows the Queen Mother's mantra, never complain, never explain, which I think is rather apt. Steve says, yours is my favourite royal channel, thank you very much. And Abby says, very posh, it is indeed. So if you want a little bit of poshness in your life, Abby, or if your mother wants a little bit more poshness in her life, she should buy the book. Max says, your George V beard is coming along great. I have one too. I will have one too once I can. Yes, it is. It's yeah. I mean, George V didn't have, I think, a full beard. I think it was a bit more trimmed. But I am aiming for a George V. And Abby says, I will watch the rest in the morning. That's okay. If anyone has to go, that's fine. You can always watch the live chat on Catch Up whenever is convenient for you. That's the beauty of these chats. You can join in live or you can watch them on Catch Up. Okay, as always, I do have my list of notes. And oh, there was one thing that a story came out about 5 hours ago. I've not had a chance to do anything on it yet. The Kensington Palace is releasing an official adult colouring book of the Duchess of Cambridge. And it's all her outfit. So if you're into this adult colouring craze, you can buy the book. I do have the photos of some of the pictures that you can colour, and I will hopefully put that in a video. So if you go to Kensington Palace or perhaps pop on the Royal Collection website, they may have put it up yet. I haven't checked, but it is the Duchess of Cambridge colouring book. So check it out. It looked really cool. And especially if you're into colouring. Matt says, Elliot, this chat makes my every time. Thank you very much. It's my every time too. I live for these chats. It's one of the highlights of my week. Elaine Bin says, hi, love the photographs you managed to obtain. Thank you very much. I hope that my choice of photos always brings you a bit closer to the event. Van Algil says, I totally agree with your comment about the Tudors. I wish they had gone on to Elizabeth I. They really should. There was no reason why they had to stop. I went through serious withdrawals when it ended. Me too. I really did. It's a bit like when Ugly Betty finished, or Desperate Housewives. I love those too. Abby says, bye, love your videos. Bye, Abby. And bye, Abby's mum. And bye, John. Yuck Yuck says, there's a lot of YouTube videos about what Camilla has said about Meghan Markle. But what Camilla has said, I haven't seen any of those, and I can categorically say they are not true. They are fake and phony. Nothing of that news has come my way. It's completely fake, totally fake. Basically, if I don't report on it, then it's fake, or it's not quite worthy of a video even. I hope you liked, by the way, my roundup video of Prince Charles and Camilla's royal week, a very busy royal week. And in fact, I say busy week, but it's actually a very typical week for them. But I just decided to lump all the events into one video because I wanted to show how much they actually do in a week. And of course, they are very, very busy. And I could do the same for Princess Anne. I could lump all of the events that she attends in one video, and it would look like an awful lot, because it is. They are very hard working. And whatever people think about Camilla, she is a very hard working member of the royal family, and she attends lots of important events. So I really hope that you liked that video. Nicole says, I'm glad the Sun apologised to Meghan today, and the Daily Mail should follow. Yes, I agree. Prince Harry's other girlfriends had this type. Did they have this type of media hatred? No, they were very on the low key. I mean, he was seen more with them. I think he's trying to keep Meghan a bit more under wraps. It isn't quite working. But no, I mean, the media haven't really shown any hatred towards Meghan in the UK. They've reported on some of her family issues, but I believe that those issues have actually been dug up more on the American-Canadian side of the pond rather than from us. I think we've just reported on them. But I mean, I haven't included any news stories about her family because until she is a member of the royal family, she doesn't really, her family don't really fit on my channel, I don't think. I report on the Middletons because they are a member through marriage of the royal family, but the Markles aren't yet. And when they do, then I might report on them. But until then, I will only report on Meghan and Harry. Max says, yes, it was CNN. Living the Good Life says, I am tuning in late. Hi, Living the Good Life. Don't worry, you can always watch on catch up. Have you talked about your pin brooch? Yes, I have, vaguely. It's silver on the top with pearls, and I'm wearing it to echo Queen Elizabeth II because it's a Sapphire Jubilee. I don't have any sapphires, but I thought this was very Elizabeth II, so I'm wearing that today in her honour. Matt says, I sent you the photo. Let me have a look. I will check. For those of you who have just joined, I am on Twitter, royal_reviewer. And if you want to send me something live while we're on chat, you can send me something on Twitter. And I'm just about to check now to see if I've got what Mac has sent me. Okay, nothing's coming up on my notifications. Can I just check, Mac, if you actually did my @royal_reviewer to sort of tag me into it? So I think if you do that, then I get some kind of notification. If you haven't, then I probably won't. I can show you. See, these are they're my latest ones, and my latest one is still the picture that Dawn sent me. So I don't have anything yet from yourself. No, Dawn was the last one to send me something 29 minutes ago. Okay, Matt says, Elliot, where did you get your photos like the one of her coming home from Sandringham? I find them from all places. wherever pops up. Sometimes it could be a newspaper website, sometimes it could be Twitter, sometimes it could be emails that I receive, all over the place. And sometimes I put them all together and make the video. And sometimes it's really annoying because if I get a video out there and I'm one of the first to get it out there, and then further photos turn up after I've made the video, and that's really annoying. So what I'm going to do is, on those occasions, I'm going to start putting the photos that I don't get to include in the videos on Twitter or on Facebook. So please join the Facebook group as well, Royal Reviewer on Facebook and Royal_Reviewer on Twitter. And I think it's Royal_Reviewer on Instagram as well. The links to all my social media is in every single description of every video I post. So just look in the description box. Living the Good Life says, what is the next big event on the royal calendar? Big event, ooh, let me think. I mean, we have the 70th anniversary, wedding anniversary of the Queen and Philip. Obviously, we have Trooping the Colour in July, I think that is. So we have a few big ones coming up. Obviously, we've just had the Sapphire Jubilee. And next week, speaking of upcoming things, on Sunday, which is tomorrow for me, we have the Duchess of Cambridge, probably with William, I think they're attending together, I'm not entirely sure, attending the British Film Awards, the BAFTAs, which is a very big event. And this is the event that everyone was having a big hoo-ha about whether she would upstage the actresses. So I'm really interested to see what she's going to wear for the BAFTAs, if she's going to wear a tiara. In Diana's day, she would have probably worn a tiara to this type of event. I think she even wore tiaras to film premieres, so certainly the BAFTAs. I'm not expecting Catherine to wear a tiara, but it would be amazing if she did. So I'm really looking forward to that. On Monday, we have the Duke of Cambridge launching the Centrepoint helpline. Centrepoint, of course, being the homelessness charity. Very much following in the footsteps of Diana with supporting the homeless. So we're bringing you a video on that. And on Tuesday, Catherine will be attending an RAF base, that's the Royal Air Force, to meet young cadets. So that's a few things coming up this week and a few things coming up in the future. Okay, Yuck Yuck says, what exactly are royal duties? Basically, any member of the royal family that's not the Queen does not have an official job description, shall we say. The Queen kind of has a role and a very loose job description of what's expected. The Prince of Wales doesn't come with a job description. Prince Philip, the monarch's husband, doesn't come with a job description or a Queen Consort. Children of the heir they don't have a defined role. So royal duties are to support the monarch. They don't have to do them. They don't legally have to do them. They don't have to do them to justify their lifestyle. They do them because it's right and proper to do so, and it's become traditional to do it. But basically, the Prince of Wales doesn't have to spend any of the money he receives from the Duchy of Cornwall, because that money is actually his. That's to fund the heir to the throne and the heir to the throne's family. He doesn't have to spend any of that on anything other than himself. If he wanted to go and sit on an island, a Caribbean island, all day for the rest of his life, ever since he was 20, he could have done that. However, he does spend the money he receives from the duchy on funding his royal engagements. He doesn't receive any money from the Queen. He funds all of his royal engagements himself, which he doesn't have to do. So a royal duty is just to support the Queen. It's something they feel like they should be doing. And of course it helps with public opinion to justify their lifestyle, but they don't have to. You know, let's not be under any illusion here. It's not a job. It's not a job description that they have to fulfill. They do it because they want to. and they support charities because they want to. So basically, a royal duty is just that. It's just the goodwill of the royal family supporting the monarch. And if you want to break it down even further, a royal duty is attending an event or a charity event or a talk, or if the government have asked a member of the royal family to go on a foreign state visit or a tour to build relationships, that's also classed as a royal duty. And I hope that has answered your question. Matt says, yeah, of course, yes, it's the 20th anniversary of Diana's death in August. And I'm really hoping, for those of you who saw, I did plant a commemorative plant, a Princess Diana clematis. And I have to say, I've been outside today, and over winter, it's not looking very healthy. So I'm hoping it's just lost its leaves because it's winter, and that it will sprout back up in the spring. So I will keep an eye on that. And of course, the statue, the upcoming statue. And I really hope they make a good choice for the statue. Steve says, any luck receiving my book for the book club, which was Margaret Rhodes' The Final Curtsey? No, not yet. I've not had any emails. It really is completely out of stock in the UK. And unless I can go into a bookstore and actually find it, then I don't think I'm going to have it anytime soon. They're probably rushing in a reprint as we speak. Living the Good Life says, I subscribe to Majesty magazine, and there is a notice that the Prince of Wales's family calendar comes out too late to include the court calendar. Yes, it does. I have noticed that, and that's one of the reasons why I don't look at it as much, because the Prince of Wales's court circular and the rest of the royal families are kind of separate, and they don't always put the future engagements in time. So what I do is I follow them on Twitter, and if I just show you a little bit of something, this is my diary that I had as a Christmas present, and I basically write down from when I go on Twitter, whenever they announce an engagement, I put the engagement in my diary, and then I tick it off when I've done a video on it. So for example, if we look back, so this is from this week, and it was about Children's Mental Health Week and the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge for the Place to Be charity and the Big Assembly. And we have the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge at the BAFTAs for the Film Awards. And then if we go to next week, I have some more engagements. So this is how I sort of plan the royal week, if you like. So I have a planner, there you go. A little bit of behind the scenes information. Okay, and by the way, Living the Good Life, Majesty magazine, I used to have that magazine and I stopped having it because I prefer now Royal Life magazine. It's a little bit more glossy, and it's a little bit like a YouTube channel but in a magazine form, and they cover a lot of the stories that I cover. So I prefer Royal Life magazine, and if you look back at some of my videos, I do some opening videos of Royal Life magazine. So that's one possibly to consider. Matt says he's tagged me now in the photos, so I will have a look. And Loretta says, hi Loretta, there is also someone waiting until you do a subject topic and then they put out a video on the same subject. So I agree, the others are aware someone is watching you. And to be honest, I don't follow a lot of the other channels. Sometimes their videos pop up in my recommended list, but I don't really follow them. So that's interesting to know that some people wait until I do one and then they do it. I haven't really noticed, to be honest. Matt says, we are the royal family and we love hospitals, Queen Mary. That's true. I think that's very much a Camilla and a Charles and an Elizabeth sentiment too. Right, I'm just checking. Aha! Jamie has tagged me. Here we go. Aha, I see it. No, I didn't get this one. So I do have it. It's the Vogue chart, a colour chart of all the different Queen's outfits. I'm not sure if you can see, but it's amazing. And I might actually use that in a video. It's all the Queen's outfits, from pale yellow to the greens, to the blues, to the greens, to the pinks and the plains. Wow, and it's called the Rainbow Queen. I love it. Thank you very much. I will probably use that. It's a bit like a Dulux or a crown paint chart. I love it. It's amazing. And you've also sent me a picture of what you can see. I love these pictures too. So I can see you looking at me. And there I am. And I can see, oh, you have the same crown decoration as me. I have that same, it's actually a tree decoration, but it's so big, I can't actually fit it on my tree. It looks silly. But you have it in the corner, and I have the very same one. And you have a book on world wars. Wow, I do like looking at people's desks. It's very interesting. For a nosy person like me, it's really good to see inside people's homes. That's why I like the, take a look inside someone's home video. Like, oh, did you look at the inside Meghan Markle's home in Toronto, Canada video that I made? It's a really amazing insight into how she would possibly decorate Kensington Palace, or should I say Harry's Nottingham cottage, if she should move in. And of course she's still there now in London. As far as I'm aware, she hasn't left. So she's been with Harry a long time after the Northern Lights holiday. So she's still there right now. Let me know what you thought about that video. Yuk Yuk says, it is so fun to chat with you, and it's so fun to chat with you guys too. Dawn Moore says, wondering if there is some place here in Canada that we can watch the BAFTAs live. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if we get it live. I think it might be a day or so later. I'll have to check. But of course, all the photos will come out, and I will be able to post the photos. Steve says, clematis die off over winter. Phew! Thank goodness for that. I have two, and they have both gone brown over winter. Do they look almost dead? Because if they look almost dead, then they're looking like my poor Princess Diana at the moment. So I'm hoping she'll sprout back in the spring and look absolutely fabulous for the anniversary in August. Alia says, do you think Harry and Meghan are going to marry? Who knows? I think it's still early days, but I think this is very serious. I think it's more serious than any relationship he's had before. I think he's more protective, he's more secretive, and it does just seem a lot more serious and grown up. And of course, his aspirations have changed now. He's no longer young. He wants to settle down. He wants to have a family. He wants his own country house. And I'm still waiting to hear about if he's bought Water Hall. And I will let you know as soon as I do about that. Marimi says, come to Italy and you'll easily find the final Curtsey in bookshops. It's too far. I can't go to Italy. I have to work and make videos. Max says, okay, try the tweets now, Elliot. I will have another look. Nancy says, hi, Elliot. Hi, Nancy. I turned in late. Have you launched the book club yet? No, I'm still waiting. In the UK, because Margaret Rhodes died, all of her book is sold out, so they need to reprint. So it's not available yet. I have it on order, but it hasn't come through. And you got Angela Kelly's book from the library. The pictures were beautiful. See, I told you it was a really good book. And you say she's a very talented designer. Yes, she is. By the way, I love your brooch. Thank you. I do too. I think I'm gonna have to wear it again. And I did say, in case for those of you who are tuned in late, I have found somewhere that do replica Elizabeth II jewellery. And I am going to be buying some official brooches. I'm not sure if some of you have seen her colourful flower brooch. There's one of them. I found a replica Canadian maple leaf brooch. I found the fern one. There's one like a burst of like a star burst, and they're all replicas. And I'm going to buy one, or two, or three. Who knows? Matt says her house is really modern. I think that's what the palace needs. I agree. I think she'll really update. Okay, I'm just going to look at my tweets again and see if anything else has come through. Nothing else has come through yet. I still have Jamie's Rainbow Queen and his picture of me on the computer. Okay, Max says, but I wouldn't sit at that table eating my dinner. Looks quite uncomfortable. I suppose it does. Steve says, clematis, yes, brown and dead is how they look, but last 2 years they've sprouted again in spring. Thank goodness for that. So I have hope for my Princess Diana clematis. Max says, Elliot, is there anywhere you could show us your coin and stamp collection? I can, but not this week. It's all the way up in a wardrobe at the very bottom. So I will have to dig it out, but I could show you the stamp and coin collection, yes. Stacey Lamb says, hello, I just joined in. Hi, Stacey, welcome to the live chat. As always, you can ask me a question, just ask it in the main chat. I can see all of what you're typing, and I will read out your question and try and answer it if you've got one. If not, just say hi, that's fine. Nicole says, yes, I saw your Meghan video and I loved it. Love all your videos, but Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are my favourites. We all have our favourites, and I will keep on doing Meghan and Harry videos. Chelsea Thomas says, the Diana flower sounds like a phoenix. I made a video, I don't know, it was late summer, so go back through my, if you look in my Princess Diana, what's it called, playlist, you look at my playlist, I think I put it in there, and you can see my Princess Diana clematis in flower. It was new, I just planted it, and I'm hoping it's going to be beautiful for August. So take a look at that video. Nancy Wright says, is your brooch a replica of one of the queens? This one isn't, but it is very reminiscent of something that she has. You have the leaf design and the pearls. So she does have pearl brooches that are very similar, but this one isn't a replica, but I will be getting some. Max says, still waiting on the Duke of Edinburgh style video. I was going to do it, but I was ill. So that was one I was going to make, and I'm hopefully going to do it next week. In fact, I have all the pictures saved, ready. I have half the article written. I just need to finish it and sync it and upload it and all the rest of it. So I will be doing it very soon. Matt also says, I think as a 10,000 special, you should do a royal reviewer house tour. I could. I've got a long way to go to 10,000 though. But yes, I could do. I could show you my house. I do plan on showing you my garden in the summer. I was going to do a Royal Roses collection because I also collect, I forgot to mention, Royal Roses, David Austin roses. That's the make of the roses, and they do lots of royal roses like Princess Michael of Kent and all these different sorts of roses. Princess Alexandra. They do lots and lots and lots of royal roses. So I will show you when they're in bloom my royal roses in my garden. Matt says, I thought brooches are only for women. Technically speaking, but I'm wearing one now, and there you go. I also am going to collect some pin badges as well. There's lots of royal pin badges. Think of it like a big pin, although it is technically, I suppose, a brooch. But I'm wearing one, and I don't care. I like them. Steve says, BAFTAs are on tomorrow, so it is on the day, so I will be watching and looking at the pictures at the same time. Dan says, you can ignore this question if you want to. I just want to know your opinion. What's your opinion about a lot of people's comments on Princess Diana videos, accusing royals of being behind her death? I don't think the royals were behind her death. I think it was just a tragic accident. I think she did have suspicions that people were planning her death. But of course, at that particular point in her life, she was going through a very bad patch. Contemporaries who knew her have said that it was verging on paranoia. However, her predictions did come true. She did die in a car crash, but I don't think the royals were behind it. On the night of her death, no one knew that she was going to be in that tunnel at that time. The plan was for her to stay at the Ritz. She was supposed to stay at the Ritz Hotel, or even in his apartment. And not even go to the Ritz. I think they were supposed to have dinner and stay in his apartment, but for some reason they ended up going to the Ritz for dinner. Then they ended up going halfway around Paris. They made loads of different journeys through Paris, so no one knew they were going to do that. That wasn't planned. And then eventually they left and went under the tunnel. So it couldn't have been planned. No one knew they were going to be through that tunnel at that time. So I don't think any royals were behind her death. And you would have to be a pretty sick, sad, horrible individual to kill the mother of one of your own family. And I don't believe that any of the royal family are that heartless. I really don't. So I don't think that she was killed by the royals. I think it was just a tragic accident with lots of what ifs. You know, what if they'd done this? What if she'd done this? What if she hadn't gone on a holiday with Dodie? What if she hadn't, you know, left Charles? What if? You can go back with the what ifs for as long as you want, but nothing's going to change anything that that accident happened. And I do believe it was that, just an accident. Marry Me says, my favourites are Will's, Kate, George and Charlotte, and Her Majesty, obviously. Good choices. The letter says, are you putting the Queen Victoria series on hold because of the new book club? No, I could talk about that now. I have seen all of the Queen Victorias. I can't quite remember which bits go in which episodes, but I have seen them all. So if you want to talk about it, you can talk about it. Or we could watch them all together and watch them episode by episode and talk about them each week. It's up to you guys. I'm really easy on the subject. Dawn says, I've just checked our big bookstore here in Canada for Margaret Rhodes' book, and it says it's not available in stores, but available as an ebook. So as a last resort, I could also get it as an ebook. I do have an e-reader. Matt says, one of your videos could be a kitchen tour. It wouldn't take very long. My kitchen is quite small. Or at least show us the other side of that door. I always wonder. I could show you. One day, maybe at 10,000 subscribers, I will do a house tour. That was a good idea. Dan says, because of Princess Diana and Dodie's relationship and the possibilities result of that relationship. Yes, I mean, if she hadn't have been in that relationship, she wouldn't have been in Paris. But you can go on forever with the what ifs. Marry Me says, thank you, Steve, and I'll be able to watch the BAFTAs on Film On. Okay, so if that's a tip from Marry Me or Mary Me. Is it Mary or Mary? Mary, I think. So you can go on Film On, that's an app, and you can see BBC One. So that's a good tip, thank you. Nicole says, I loved Queen Elizabeth's lime green outfit. She was absolutely stunning. She was indeed. Who designs her clothes? Normally it's Angela Kelly, her in-house designer and dressmaker. And she also looks after Elizabeth's jewels. So she's the curator of her jewellery. Matt says, what if she had a child and William as king would have a Muslim brother? I don't think many people do. Just because she's mixed race would not change anything to do with Harry. If they married, that wouldn't make Harry a Muslim, and it wouldn't make the child necessarily Muslim. I would imagine the child will be brought up in the Church of England. Max says, is Van Aal still here? I'm not sure. Van, are you still there? Okay, just checking my list to see if there's anything else that we haven't mentioned. And I think we've covered pretty much everything. Oh, the race. How could I forget the race? Harry, Catherine and William raced each other this week on an engagement. And I thought it was a really, really good. They were also very competitive. Catherine desperately wanted to win, but I think she came last. William was then trying to beat Harry, but Harry raced ahead. They were mostly wearing completely inappropriate clothes for the event. I think Harry was the best dressed for a sporting event. William was in his chinos and trusted jumper that he always wears, and the Duchess was wearing jeans. So not really outfits for a sporting occasion, but nevertheless, it looked really cool. They had a really good time. They supported a good cause, and Harry won the race. So if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. It's really good. Okay, Dawn says, this is Canada's 150th birthday. We have a special tulip that was developed for it. I planted some and hope they will come up in the spring. So I can relate to how you feel about your flowers. Yes, I love celebratory commemorative flowers. That's, I suppose I do collect a lot. So I also have a stamp collection, a coin collection, and a flower collection as well. So yes, I do love flowers. Banal Girl says yes, she's still here. Max says, I always wondered how much of an impact the Queen has on choosing her clothes. I think she always gets the final say, but I think she always specifies the practicalities of her clothes. And that's what came over in the Angela Kelly book, is that the clothes have to be fit for the purpose of the royal duties. So the skirts are weighted down in the hems. There's small little plates sewed into the hems. She has to wear block colours to be seen. Her umbrellas are colour coordinated for her outfit, and of course they're see-through so that people can still see her on a rainy day. Her hats are a certain design so that you can see her face. There's a lot of thought that goes into her clothes, and of course she reuses fabric that she was given in the 50s and 60s and 70s and all the way through to today, because sometimes she's gifted fabric as a gift. So she has that made into clothes when the time is right. Dawn says, I rock the brooch. Thank you very much. I hope to get a new one for next week. Steve says he wished Catherine had won. I think if Catherine had won, that would have shut William and Harry up completely. Max says, how do the royal family find out about new products if they never go shopping? I think they do go shopping, but on the down low. So they would go with their personal protection officer, and they would obviously try and escape the media gaze. Diana used to have stores shut down after closing time so that she could go and browse the shops. And of course, nowadays, with the online shopping, they can still shop online. And of course, they have their designers giving them clothes and advisors helping them. So I think they do okay for new products. Dan says, thank you for answering. You're welcome. Loretta says, I would love to research Queen Victoria's life and have a live chat on the subject. Do you think Queen Victoria and Edward VII had a poor relationship? I think there was obviously, like any mother and son, but particularly when you're the heir and you're, in a way, to take on the top job. It's a very weird scenario because to get the top job that you've been born for, your mother has to die. And also, your mother has authority over you as an adult when normally you'd have grown up and flown the nest. Well, so I think it could have been a very strained relationship, one that's very odd. In a way, a little bit, I suppose, like Charles and his mother, Elizabeth, the Queen. But I think their relationship is very good and solid. But maybe there was a little bit of friction between Victoria and Edward. But I think that's sometimes how it is. No family life is ever perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Max says, I didn't mean to be nasty about saying brooches are for women. That's just what I thought. Sorry, don't worry. Think of it as a badge. It is, I suppose, technically a brooch, but think of it as a badge. I don't think it really matters who wears it or what. I'm going to carry on wearing them, and I will have a new one next week. I hope. I need to order it tonight. Marimi said, do preserve your privacy, Elliot. You're kind enough to share all that you know on the royals. Your house is your home. Keep it private. At 10,000 subscribers, I will see. Dawn Moore says, what ifs are great. Hindsight is 2020. So they have to move on. And it was Dodie's father who brought out all the conspiracy. I agree completely. A grieving father's way of dealing with it. Again, I agree. Nothing's going to change the fact that she died. And, you know, 2 young boys were left without a mother. 2 young men are still without a mother. And grandchildren are without a grandmother. Nothing's going to change that. It's sad. But we have to move on. Life moves on. Max says, can you imagine the Queen popping down to Tesco for a pint of milk? No, I can't. I'm sure she would love it. She loves to do normal things. She was pictured last year visiting a Waitrose, and it looked really surreal to see her in a Waitrose. but she looked like she was thoroughly enjoying it. It looked really novel to her. So she loves to do normal things, and she loves it when on royal events things go wrong. She loves mistakes, when people make mistakes or things, timing goes wrong. She loves it. The whole royal family love mistakes, unplanned things happening, because their lives are so scheduled. You can imagine that they love things to just go awry. So I'm sure she would love nothing more than to pop down to the shops for a pint of milk. Van Algil says, I often wondered if Catherine had those little weights sewn into the hem of her dresses. I don't think she does, but I think she should. Definitely. Loretta says, I agree that I should preserve my privacy and shouldn't show the stamp collection because people will know what it looks like. I suppose that's another point. Privacy is very important. Steve says, didn't Queen Victoria blame Edward VII for Albert's death? I think a grieving widow may have been looking for any excuse as to why her husband died. So perhaps for a time she did. I don't know that for a fact, but you can tell that that's something that perhaps a grieving widow could have said. But I don't think she truly believed that into her later years. Matt says, when Dodi's father called Philip a gangster, it makes me laugh so much. I think Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, said a lot of things. But again, you just have to move on. You really do. Now, there was one other thing that I wanted to show you. And a lot of questions I have is, what got me interested in royal history? And one of the earliest books that I ever had was this book on the Tudors, and it's very much written for children. And I remember poring over this book for hours. I mean, it's not even very big, but I read it word for word. And it was when at school, I got this when we were doing a unit on the Tudors. So we did a whole term topic on the Tudors, and I got this book when I went to London. And this was the book, I think, that probably got me completely hooked. It's an amazing book, and as you can see, it's very much written for children, and it explains all about, in fairly simplistic terms, about Henry VII and how he came to the throne, Henry VIII and Henry VIII's wives, and the religious reforms. There we go, Henry VIII's wives. Not sure if you can see that. So yeah, this is the book, The End of the Monasteries, Edward and Mary, the young Queen Elizabeth, and it goes through Elizabeth's reign, and it explains a bit about Tudor life as well, towns and country and transport and trade, Elizabethan costumes and clothes. But this is what I mean about things looking so colourful long ago, is because the outfits were so colourful and bright, and I was just completely fascinated about the houses. I mean, you know, even the old houses. I just loved everything about crime and punishment, education and science, the Spanish Armada. So I learned all about this really young, I suppose. Really, I'd have been 11 when I was reading this, I suppose, about 11. And this is the first book that of my collection on royal history, or even history books. This was the very first one. And in fact, what was the year that it was printed? It was first published again in 1993. So the two books I've shown you today are from 1993. But this one was my very, very first. So I just thought I'd share that with you from my collection. Max says, what are you talking about with the weights on the Queen's dress? I've never heard about that. Basically, the Queen, from a very, very, very young age, discovered that on a windy day, her skirts would get blown up, and she didn't want to have a Marilyn Monroe moment. So she started having small weights sewn into the hem of her dresses, which weigh them down, which means that basically they're windproof. The Queen's dresses are gust-proof. There is not going to be a gust. There's going to whip up her skirt, and show her knickers. We will not see the Queen's knickers because she has weighted hems. So what we were saying is the Duchess of Cambridge should also have weighted hems because she has on occasion nearly had a Marilyn Monroe moment, and we've nearly all seen her knickers. Okay, Nicole echoing some sentiments I should maintain privacy. Max says, when your list of wives takes up 2 pages. Yes, he was epic. Henry VIII was just epic. Max says, what photo should I put on my iPad background? I had the Royal Standard and now it's Queen's Seal. Let me think. I think for this week you should have the St. Edward's crown. What about the St. Edward's crown? I'm sure there must be a HD picture of the St. Edward's crown out there. Try that. Max says, your face is really bright. I can hardly see me. Is it better if I sit back a bit? Let me just check. Okay, yes, my face is bright. It might help if I move slightly back. Or even adjust the webcam. Hang on. There we go. That's better. Sometimes the webcam just needs adjusting. And then that brightness, that weird brightness just goes. There we go. Dawn says there is a video of the Queen stopping at a candy store years ago. Yes, and she also goes shopping in farm shops when she's at, I think it's Balmoral, and also Sandringham, because they have farm shops on the estates. And you were surprised she had money. She doesn't always carry money on engagements, but if she is going to a shop, then she will take some money. Dan says there is a nowadays view of us that makes us, hang on, let me start that again. There is a nowadays view of us that makes us think there is no way royals would do such a thing. But when we read about history of royals, that somehow doesn't look so impossible anymore, and that's why. And you also carry on, that's why maybe a lot of people would accuse royals of it. Of course, going back to your question about the royals and Diana, yes, I agree, but I still don't, I really don't think that they had anything to do with her death. Max says, St. Edward's crown, good idea. I'll do it after the video. Thank you for asking. Maybe I can choose your picture every week. Van Al says, we've seen Catherine's knickers a few times, haven't we? We have. She needs the weights. If I was her friend, I would be telling her, get the weights. I would tell her, if I ever got to meet her, I would tell her to have the weights put in her skirt. Retta says, British history is enchanting to me. Do British people feel the same way? Some do, some don't. Or is there a feeling of power, greed, and death? And the 1701 Act was needed. Basically, modern day Britons, because we weren't the people that were doing the conquering in the British Empire days, you know, it's not our generation that did that. So we feel slightly removed from it. We feel like, although it was our country, it wasn't us. We wouldn't do that now. That's not the way of thinking that we have now. We completely like the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth of Nations is really good, and having that unity and that shared bond and the shared interest. But we certainly wouldn't want to go conquering and obtaining territory like some countries in Europe are trying to do right now. I will not say their name, but we certainly don't have that now. And we don't look back on that history and think, you know, it was really good to have all that power and greed and the death and slavery. We just feel slightly removed, and we can look back on it objectively and look at the good things about empire and the bad things about empire. And there were both. There were some good, there were lots of bad. But basically, in terms of does everyone like British history? No, some people are really not interested at all, and others like to know about the past. And I like to know about the past because without knowing about the past, I think that's the foundation of the future. So that's why I like British history. Max says, it's because you showed the book, it lost focus, probably, yes. Were you really surprised the Queen of England had money? No, I think if she was going to a shop, she would take some. But I would be surprised if she had some on a regular engagement. Marimi says, good night to all of you out there. It's been a pleasure as usual. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you to you too. And have a good night. Nicole says, do you have any updates on Waterhall? No, I'm still waiting. I'm hoping there'll be an announcement, an official one, or possibly a leak if he has to apply for planning permission. And I do need a swig of my tea, even though it's cold. It would be considered a private home and not a royal residence. Max says, being a royal fanatic and being 15 is really hard, like no one can know about it. I can imagine it would probably lose you some street cred. However, one of my aims of this channel, one of my fundamental aims, is to try and make royalty cool. And I do, I do cover a lot of the older royals too, but I do concentrate, I try to concentrate a little bit more on Harry, Catherine and William, and Beatrice and Eugenie and Zara, because they're the young generation and that's who people are going to be able to relate to. And unfortunately there is no real royal teenagers right now that I can focus on. Possibly Lady Louise Windsor, when she's in a couple of years she'll be of teenage age, but I am trying to get younger people interested and trying to make it cool. So hopefully more and more young people will become interested in the royals. Vanal says, I just ordered, as usual, I've just ordered a used copy of Hyacinth's Book of Etiquette from Amazon. It should be a wonderful read. It is. And of course, it's very tongue-in-cheek, but you do actually get some good tips on etiquette as well. So it's still quite practical. Tim says, are you still live? Yes, I am. Hi, Tim. I'm still live. Max says, lots of laughter at Tim. Tim says, you look like a priest from my first look at you. Well, God bless you, my child. No, this is the one. God bless you. Kelly says, how does the public feel about Charles being the next monarch? Again, it's very split. Some people think he'll be good, like me, and some people can't forgive him for the whole Diana situation, and the same goes for Camilla. Personally, I think he'll be a very conscientious king about the environment, and I think he'll try his best to improve Britain in the face of environmental challenges, which I think we need. Loretta says, we are still live, Tim. And he says, well, I won't be live for long. It is towards the tail end of the chat. But of course, if you have missed it, you can watch on catch up. Steve says, have you thought any more about your next batch of letters? Yes, I think I'm going to send some to Princess Michael of Kent, Beatrice and Eugenie, Sarah, Duchess of York, possibly the Kents and the Gloucesters, and Princess Anne. And I'm going to leave Zara till the next time. So possibly 6 letters. So that's 6 replies and 6 opening videos. Wow, can't wait. Okay, and apparently I just made Max spit out his drink. So that's Coca-Cola everywhere. Oh my God. Thank you for your confession. Steve says, I'm looking forward to Charles being king and not wanting to lose the Queen. I agree. It's bittersweet. When the Queen passes, we get all the sadness of losing the Queen, but we also get the excitement of the renewal of the monarchy, and we get to see a hereditary monarchy in action, which of course we haven't seen, you know, for the length of the Queen's reign. We haven't seen that. We haven't had a handover. Well, not a handover. We haven't had a change of monarch. So it will also be exciting, but also very sad. It's bittersweet. Tim says, all the American tabloids are saying Catherine is pregnant with twins. Rubbish, phony, fake news. Can't stand those papers. I agree. Nicole says, who lives in St James's Palace? Eugenie and Beatrice. But Beatrice is moving out into Kensington Palace. Prince Charles and Camilla live in Clarence House, which is right next to St James. So they use St James a lot for their royal engagements. Then, of course, there's lots of staff accommodation and basically staff quarters. Princess Anne and Andrew have apartments in Buckingham Palace. And I think their rooms are towards the front of the palace. Chelsea says, "It's I'm sad my birthday's in a month." And why are you sad? How old will you be? I'm wondering why you're sad. Is it a special birthday? Are you a special age? Dan says, yes, I'm so glad I found and subscribed to this channel. Thank you so much. I'm glad you found us. Max says, Elliot, remember to retweet tweets. I will try. I always try to remember all these things. Imagine Charles's coronation. Yes, I would love a coronation. It's all, the plans are already there. I did a video on the coronation plans. There is a coronation committee already in existence. Plans are underway. And I would love to see it. But then to get the coronation, we have to lose the Queen. It's very sad. Max says, I wonder what Balmoral is like for the rest of the year. I think they just wind it all down. And I think it's opened up to the public at certain times of the year. I've seen videos where people have toured the grounds. And I think you can do a house tour as well to the main rooms. Tim says, I posted on Facebook about the Queen's 65 years on the throne. And I had 450 plus likes and comments. Everyone knows I love posting about Her Majesty. Wow, that's really good. That's a really good response rate. And sometimes I wish I had that response rate. I do go on Facebook and post on some of the groups. And believe it or not, photographs get shared and liked a lot more on Facebook than video links. I mean, even the video link that's got the picture and just the play button, people don't tend to click on them. Whereas people tend to read and see the pictures and like the pictures and interact with the pictures a lot more. I find that a bit strange because I'd rather just click directly on a video link, but everyone's different. Matt says, London Bridge, God, I hope it never happens. And Tim, I'd probably get bullied if I did that. Tim says, I'm wondering, are the older £5 notes still being used? Yes, they are. They're currently in a period of being phased out. And that will happen with all of our notes because they're all being transitioned eventually into the new sort of plasticky type money. I don't think I have one to show you. I think I spent it. Let me have a look. I'm just checking in my wallet to see if I have one. I did spend one, so I'm not sure if I have one. No. Oh, I do. Here we are. Can you all see the new £5 note? And it's very plasticky and it's a little bit see-through. Can you? Maybe you can see me. They're supposed to be more secure. They're washproof. If you leave them in your pocket, they can get laundered. You can still tear them. Some people have torn them. This one has, well, they all have Winston Churchill on the back, and all the notes are being redone. So the £10 note is next, and the 20, then the 50. So that's my one. I thought I'd spent it, but I haven't. But the old ones are still legal tender, and of course when people spend them, they get collected in and get sent back to the Royal Mint. Chelsea says she's going to be 27, which means I'm going to be 72. Wow, I didn't. Are you really 72? I didn't know you were 72. Van Algil says, Elliot, if you could attend only one royal event in your life, which event would that be? Do you mean one that I could actually attend, or one that I wished I could have attended if I'd lived long ago? I'd have loved to have attended the coronation of Elizabeth I for my historical event. But perhaps an upcoming one. I would like to attend a future coronation. I would love to be in Westminster. Not Westminster. I would love to be in there when it's being done. It would be amazing. And so atmospheric. It really would. What event would you like to be at? And yes, I did mean Westminster Abbey. I would love to be in there. And of course they do all the staging, and the music would be so amazing. I can imagine the sound and seeing the people singing and all the robes and the crown. A very long ceremony. I think you'd take sandwiches, but I would love to see it. Matt says, if the monarchy is abolished, would the crown estate belong to Charles, Windsor, or the government? I've often wondered that, because technically it was given in exchange for the funding, because it did actually belong to the monarch. I should imagine they'd probably be pensioned off as a family. I think it would probably be expected that it would be returned to the state, but legally I'm not quite sure where they would stand with it. I think they definitely would have a legal claim to it, because technically the state would be breaking the agreement made. So it's an interesting one, and one that I hope we'd never have to contend with, but I think it would cause a lot of legal challenges. Tim thinks the £5 note is so pretty. It is. I think it's a really good way to go with the money. I'm wondering if other countries will follow. Matt says, remember to spend all your £1 coins before the end of March. Yes. I thought it was November. Is it March? Wow. So yes, if you've got £1 coins, spend them, because it could be March when they go out of circulation, and then you won't be able to spend them. Oh yes, because you get the many-sided pound coin. I forget how many sides. Van Al says the £5 note looks like our Canadian money. They're very hard to fold. I don't think this one's hard to fold. Let me check. I will check for you. I don't think it's hard to fold. I suppose, yeah, I suppose it kind of springs back out. Although I do like to keep mine quite neat in my wallet anyway. No need to fold them. Tim says, what's happening with the £1 coins? I think, again, they're being collected back in and being replaced. Chelsea says, no, she's only joking. You're going to be 27. Ooh, I did think you were a lot older then. Dawn says, do you think King Charles, or whatever name he takes, will be soon after he becomes monarch, or a long wait? Do you mean the coronation? The coronation will take about 18 months to plan and execute. So yeah, I think you'll probably have to wait that amount of time. Van Al says, I would like to have attended the Queen's coronation. Yes, I would love that one too, as you would have cried your eyes out when the crown was put on the Queen's head. Chelsea has to go. I will be going soon too, so good night, Chelsea. Dawn says, the plasticky type money is what we have in Canada. And Steve says, the new £1 comes out in March, but can spend old ones until November. That's what I thought. I had November in my head. I knew I wasn't going crazy. So it's out in March, but you can spend them all until November. So please spend them until November. Matt says, if I could attend an event, it would have been Queen Victoria's funeral, an end of an era. Yes, an interesting one. And Tim says, I wonder if Charles even wants to take the crown. I think he does. I think he's waited a very long time. So I think he definitely wants to. And yes, it could possibly be 10 years down the road. If the Queen lives until the same age as the Queen Mother, it's a good 10 years. So, you know, Charles will be in his 70s. And in fact, I was thinking last night, how old will William be? And William is likely to be probably in his 60s by the time he becomes king. So I don't think we'll see a young monarch for a long time. Beck says, I think we in Australia were the first to have plastic money. It's great when it goes through the wash. I can imagine. I try not to put my money through the wash. But if you do, I can imagine it's amazing. Max says there's a possibility Charles could die before the Queen. It is a possibility. Men these days are dying before women, so he could. There is a chance. Although he still seems very fit and healthy himself. So I hope not, but it's a possibility. Dawn says, sorry, correction about King Charles, his coronation. Would it be soon after he becomes monarch? It's usually about 18 months. So from whatever age he is when he becomes king, when he accedes to the throne after the Queen's death, it's usually about 18 months before the coronation. It takes that long to plan, even if there is a plan in place. It's the organisation of it. They could do it quicker, I suppose, if they scaled it down, but usually about 18 months. Nicole says, good night, Elliot. Thanks for another great chat. Have a great week. Good night, Nicole. And Grizz Jazz 96 says, there's a possibility William could die before the Queen. It's relative. Again, anybody could die at any time. Tim says, quick question. If Edward did not abdicate in 1936, and since he had no kids, who would be the next in line? We would still have the Queen today, because Edward didn't have any children. Himself and the Duchess of Windsor had no children. And because George VI died, obviously, early, and actually died before Edward, the Queen would have still been the heiress presumptive. Of course, it would have been about 25 years later. So when she was celebrating her Silver Jubilee, that's when she would be roughly having her coronation. So it would have made no difference to history whatsoever, and had he not abdicated, we would still have the Queen as monarch and the current line. Matt says, what would happen if the roof fell in at the royal wedding and everyone inside died who would be king or queen? If that did happen, basically it would just go down the line as far as it would until it found somebody that was the next in line that hadn't been killed. So it would still carry on. And Max says, imagine George V's older brother didn't die, Prince Albert Victor. Yes, that would probably have changed everything, because if he'd have had children, that would have completely changed the whole line. Matt says, if the Royal Marines Act was a thing in 1901 when Victoria died, the Royal Marines, I'm not sure what the Royal Marines Act was. I haven't checked that out. Let me know what it is. Matt says, the King of England would be would be Kaiser Wilhelm II. Interesting. Yes. I mean, there's, again, in history, there's so many what ifs. What if so-and-so hadn't died? What if so-and-so hadn't conquered? History could be so different. That's why they say if time travel was possible, you shouldn't change things, because it could change the whole future. So if ever time travel does become possible, don't change things, because it could change the future. Was Albert Victor a haemophiliac? I think he was. And I think that came from the Russian side, from the Tsars. They had a lot of haemophiliacs. And I think he was, yes. At the marriages, not Marines. I was going to say, why Marines? So yes, I do agree. Dawn says, boy, you were good with knowing what we were trying to say, re the coronation. I've gotten quite good at reading the questions, because I'm sat quite far back as well. Sometimes I can't quite see the question because the writing is quite small on my screen. I have to strain to see. But yes, I did know you were talking about the coronation. Loretta says, so the monarch's name is not changed at the proclamation, but coronation. No, as soon as the Queen dies, the very second she dies, he will be king. And then he gets to choose his regnal name as soon as possible. So they will probably refer to him initially as King Charles, but then he will decide pretty much straight away. In fact, he may have already decided, we don't know, if he will be George VII or whether he will be Charles III. Or he could choose one of his other names, one of his other Christian names. So he probably knows already what he will be. So that name, whichever one he chooses, will be used. But of course, at the coronation, he will be coronated with that name. Max says, Elliot, who is your favourite King of England ever? I would have to say Henry VIII. Tim says, because he's so interesting. Tim says, this is a silly and weird question, but say Charles and William were killed somehow, how could Prince George rule? He's only 3. There would likely be a regency. So possibly Catherine could step in and be appointed by the Regency Council as George's mother to be regent of England. She'd probably be known as Princess Regent. Or they could appoint Harry. Harry could be Prince Regent. Someone within the family would be regent, probably Catherine or Harry. Max says, Elliot, I skipped going to the cinema with my friends to watch this live stream. And they just said it was so boring, so it was well worth it. Well, I'm glad that they had such a boring time and we've had such a good time. They should have stayed and watched me too. Max says, you better watch The Crown this week. I will, it's here. It's here, I will watch it. And don't forget to retweet tweets, I will. What are all of Charles's names? Right, let me think. Charles, is it Albert, Louis, George, or something like that? I forget the order. I think Albert's in there. I'm sure. Can we Google? Let's Google all of his names. I think it's Charles. Louis is definitely in there. George is definitely in there. I think it could be Albert. What about the organisation takes so long? They have the plan, but they have to organise it, as in get things in place. At the Queen's coronation, they had to build elaborate staging to actually fit the amount of people in that they did. I think they got an extra 5,000 people in than what they actually had seats for because they built this staging. So the whole setup takes a very long time. Max says, what does my dog tag say? It's got my name on it and my birth date. It's a proper dog tag. It's got my name on and my date of birth and my address on the back, actually. Van Al says, Henry VIII is your favourite too. And what's the age to become king? Do you mean who? What age does who become king? Chelsea says, I want to go back in time to be friends with Diana and Camilla. That would be interesting. Valerie G says, hi from Memphis. Is it terrible I'm not crazy about Meghan? No, it's not terrible. We all have our preferences. I'm rather disliking the comparisons between her and Catherine. I love Catherine. They will always be compared. If she does marry into the family, can you imagine at the royal events? There will be so much competition in the media between who has the best outfit or the best jewels or the best hat. It will be incredibly, it will just be amazing. I can't wait if that happens. Valerie says, Albert David. I knew there was some, yes, because Harry has David in his name as well. Tim says 104 more days until I'm going back to London. Wow. And I think you were going back for Trooping the Colour. Mac says, yes, we're all talking about the death, and Elliot is dressed as a priest. God bless you, my child. And Mac really, 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 really wants to go to London. Charles Philip Arthur George, of course. Now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. I remember from the Diana wedding where she got the names mixed up. And it was Charles Philip Arthur George. And I think Diana said Charles Arthur Philip George or something like that. Tim says, Matt, come with me. And Chelsea says Charles Philip Arthur George. And Loretta says the same thing. And Matt says, Tim, I wish I could, but I'm doing your state examinations. I remember you saying. Matt says, what age can you legally be queen? There is no age. You can be queen, but also have a regent if you're too young. So let's just say Prince George was king at 4 years old. He would still be king, but there would be a regent acting on his behalf. Fuzzy Puppet says, would Harry and Meghan have to have a civil ceremony? We spoke about this last week and we weren't quite sure. I think personally it would follow the same precedent set by the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles and Camilla, and that is they have a civil ceremony and then a church blessing. So I think it could follow that pattern. Valerie says, sorry, Charles Philip Arthur George. And Tim says, at the next coronation, will there be extra standards in stalls? That's what I'm thinking, the extra planning and things. So yes, I think there probably will. Or will the fire marshal allow this due to changing rules? There will be different health and safety laws. But I can't see why, with a bit of tweaking, they couldn't get the stands back in. They may have even kept them, I don't know. What an awesome chat tonight, really awesome topics. Too bad I will probably be missing next week. Oh no, Dawn, where are you going? Steve said, Edward VI didn't have a regent, did he? I don't think, no, I don't think he did. But then again, people were getting married at his age back then. So no, he didn't have a regent. Veta says, Chelsea Thomas, Sarah Duchess of York was friends with both women. She was for a time. And Tim says, does every royal have to belong to the C of E? I think they did change some laws now so that Catholics, I don't think, are excluded anymore. And Max says, if the Queen died, how fast do you think all the hotels in London would fill out for her funeral date? They would be chock-a-block. As soon as the date was announced, people would just be booking. Valerie says, why was Charles not made Prince of Wales until he was 21? Probably because he was doing his studies at university. Remember, he did go to university, I do believe, or he was doing his studies at least up until 21. So I think they delayed it until then. And Tim says, gracious, I hate thinking about Her Majesty dying. Yes, it's a terrible thought, and those of us who have grown up only having her as monarch, it's incomprehensible to think of her not being there. But one day it will happen, and we will have a new monarch. Fuzzy Puppet says, do you feel there will be a big movement to get rid of the royal family once the Queen passes? I think there will be noise made by a few. The supporters of Republic will probably be shouting from the rooftops, but I think it will come to nothing. I think the public will just accept the changeover of the monarch, and they will just get on with it, like we in Britain tend to do. We just get on with things, and I think that will happen at that time. Now, I'm going to have to end the chat this week right now. It's been fantastic as always. We've had probably one of the best chats I've had, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone who's involved. Thank you for everyone who's going to watch this on catch up. Thank you for all your amazing questions, and I really do feel privileged to be able to speak to you each week. And it will be the same time next week, 10 o'clock Saturday GMT time. And from me in Shropshire, it's time to say goodbye. So again, thank you very much, and goodbye from me.